Welcome to another episode of the Fast Lane Car, and today I have the very great pleasure of having Wayne Burgess here, who is not only a heavy metal rocker, right? Scattering Ashes.
Yeah, that's true.
That's your band,
Yes.
but also design director of the
Production studio director, yes.
Production studio director for Jaguar and the new F-Type. So Wayne, would you walk us through the design of this car? I know your heart and soul went into it. It's absolutely stunning, and I can't wait for you to tell us about what inspired you. Coming up next on the Fast Lane Car.
Okay, well, one of the most fundamental things about any Jaguar is that we work very, very hard to give the car best-in-class proportions. So as this was a clean sheet of paper design, it gave us the opportunity to really establish for F-Type best-in-class front engine, rear-wheel drive, two-seater sports car proportions. The car's almost classical in its profile view. Once you've got that basic architecture in place, then you can start looking at the graphics and the details of the car. And if we start at the front of F-Type, we took the decision to take the grille shape and style from today's XJ and XF saloons, because we're working hard to build a strong visual identity for Jaguar cars, and we thought it was more important that the front end of F-Type related to our current production saloons than perhaps what was expected by some, which was to take the oval mouth from today's XK and obviously the E-Type before it. So it's important that we have this common grille graphic across the range of cars so that as we move forward, people recognize this as a Jaguar grille. Then of course we have the fingernail lamps with this signature LED light blade in there, the J blade as we call it. And of course daylight running lamps mean that these are on all the time in most markets around the world now. So again, it's another signature element that we can have on our cars. And you'll see that we already have the J blade, this LED graphic, on today's XF, today's XK, a version of it on XJ as well. And again, moving forwards, this graphic detail will appear across the Jaguar range. So again, a lamp graphic that is a common factor. Great to hear the V6 racing off in the background there. Also, as we move rearwards, obviously this is a Jaguar, we try and shrink wrap the A surface, the skin around the mechanical components. So we've dropped the hood pressing as low as we can, and that's why we have this central power board, because that's where the power unit is kind of pushing its way up through the bonnet. And likewise, the fenders rise up over the wheel houses because we've pulled the surface down to the last millimeter over every mechanical component. Also, you'll notice the car has what we call a clamshell bonnet. This whole portion hinges forwards, and that's because it gives the car a very exotic nature. You know, it's easy to do an inset bonnet like a lot of our competitors do, but we thought it was really cool that actually if you look at some of the historical exotic cars like Lamborghini Miuras, the Jaguar E-Type of course, Lancia Stratoses, they had these whole panels that open front and rear. And certainly when I was a little boy and I was buying dinky toys and so on, I'd always display those cars with the fronts and rears opened up because they were kind of like a transformer in the days before Transformers existed. So we kind of hope that now we've got the clamshell bonnet on F-Type, some of our dealers will actually display the car with the bonnet open just because it looks cool and exotic. Moving rearwards on the car, we work very, very hard to keep the sort of design language as simple and as pure as possible on Jaguars, and wherever we add detail in, and there isn't much, we try and make it as exquisite as possible. So we have this lovely chrome ingot around the fender extraction vent here with the Jaguar name stamped into it, giving the impression that this was really cast from a solid piece of aluminium. And it's a graphic device that we use to telegraph the fact that F-Type has a really excellent dash to axle dimension, so the centre line of the front to the dashboard, that's a big dimension there, telegraphing that the engine is actually sitting within there. Notice also every F-Type has bonnet louvers, again to improve static cooling, but on a day like today, you're sitting at the traffic lights ready to go, you see that little heat haze rising out of the bonnet, it puts a smile on your face because again, you're made aware of the fact that you've got a powerful engine under the bonnet. As we move rearwards through the car, we have these lovely powerful rear haunches, very much a Jaguar signature to have this swollen muscular haunch for the rear fender, telegraphing the fact that, you know, the rear axle puts the power down to the road. And then this beautiful tapering tail, tapered both in plan view and also in profile. it gives the F-Type a unique rear end, and that's really important. You know, it's one of the most distinctive features of the car and something which sets Jaguar apart. This is an area of the car where we were probably more influenced by the E-Type subconsciously than anywhere, because we really like the idea that on the Series 1 E-Type you had this standard Lucas tail lamp that they turned horizontally and stuck onto the car, and it was this horizontal bar with a roundel in it, and that gave a very distinctive graphic that, because it was attached to the E-Type, became iconic in itself. So we've used LED technology to interpret that graphic in a very modern way on the back of F-Type, and it gives the car a very, very strong rear end identity. And you'll notice with the Jaguar range as we move forwards again, we'll use that graphic, like the J-blade and the headlamps, to reinforce the rear end signature of Jaguars. Also notice, because the car's got this beautiful low tapering tail, we have a deploying rear spoiler. We're using technology to deliver the design language, so the spoiler only comes up when necessary to reduce drag and provide downforce. When it's not needed, it folds flush with the volume surface of the car. And then down, because this is a V6, we have these twin centrally mounted tailpipes, a lovely signature for the car. And there's a nice story about this. We wanted, again, to use these as a piece of jewellery, so the idea that they were machined from a solid billet of metal. The engineer that was working on the program from Powertrain got so enthusiastic about the idea of doing this, he went off to Italy to an exhaust manufacturer that supplies performance motorcycles, Italian motorcycles, and they have a very special technique for stamping tailpipes out of a single piece of stainless steel. And he bought these two back in a leather-bound presentation case that was velvet lined. He opened it up and they were presented like two crystal decanters, and he was so charming and so excited. We saw what he'd got and said, well, absolutely, they'll be the tailpipes on the V6 car. It's great actually to be shouting over the cars hurtling past on the track.
And you have to love the sound of that exhaust note. I mean, both on the 6 and on the 8. And to me, the 6 screams, whereas the 8 grunts.
Yes.
And they're very distinctive.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say one's better or worse. They're just very different, you know?
Absolutely. And you know, the way the cars drive and behave as well, they've got two quite different characters. And it's interesting for you guys to compare the two as well. But we work very hard to deliver a very powerful, rasping exhaust note on these cars. I think, again, this is something that sets Jaguars apart in today's sort of context of other products.
If you are going to buy one of these cars and you head out of your neighborhood on a Sunday morning to get some early breakfast and you push that little button, your neighbors will know you own an F-Type. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
I appreciate the fact that you've walked us through the design of this car. I can see a lot of heart and soul went into it, and it shows.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been very proud at Jaguar Design to work on this car, and I know that from Ian Callum's point of view, it's a car that he's always wanted to do for Jaguar, so it's been my privilege to work on the program with the Jaguar Design team.
Hey, do you have a website for your Scattering Ashes?
I do, actually, yes.
What is it? Give it a shout out.
Yeah, you can find my band Scattering Ashes on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Scattering Ashes, or on Reverb Nation. We got an album on iTunes as well, Shadows.
And you can, of course, find the Jaguar at Jaguar. So thanks for watching, and of course, see you next time. As always, this is Roman and Wayne saying
Thank you.
ciao.
Bye-bye.